Alpine struggled at the start of the 2021 Formula 1 season. While McLaren, Ferrari and AlphaTauri led the midfield, it was battling with Aston Martin on the fringes of the top 10 with a clear performance deficit to the leaders of the Class B pack. Since then, Alpine's form has improved as it has worked to recover from problems over the winter that limited its performance level. Esteban Ocon qualified on the third row for both the Portuguese and Spanish Grand Prix, and according to teammate Fernando Alonso, Alpine can be the fifth team in F1 based on this upturn. But how much progress has Alpine really made? Why? And what does it mean for its chances for the rest of the season? If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to The Race for extensive coverage of Formula 1, and hit the notifications bell so you're the first to know when there's something new to watch. After an encouraging 2020 season under the Renault name, during which it picked up 3 podium finishes, Alpine was hoping to be a strong contender at the front of the midfield pack. But it suffered a setback with the development of the 2021 Alpine A521 over the winter. This was down to a problem in the wind tunnel that Alpine Executive Director Marcin Budkowski claimed cost it a few weeks of development. This translated into a time loss measured in tenths of a second, given teams were having to adapt to the modified aerodynamic regulations impacting the floor for this season. While every F1 team had difficulties in this area, a problem with the hardware of the wind tunnel and the way the testing was being conducted also contributed to it losing ground as others developed without such problems. While Alpine hasn't revealed the exact nature of the problems, struggles stabilising the aerodynamic flow features of the car and producing accurate numbers have been mentioned. This appears to have happened as a misstep of the ongoing process of improving the way the wind tunnel is used and has subsequently been corrected. That said, what Alpine has said about the problem doesn't entirely explain the full story of exactly what went on. But what is for sure is that parts that ideally would have been on the car for the start of the season were not available in time, putting Alpine on the back foot. Although Fernando Alonso qualified 9th for the season-opening Bahrain Grand Prix, he slipped out of the points before retiring thanks to a sandwich wrapper becoming caught in his right rear brake duct and causing overheating. Esteban Ocon wasn't a factor owing to yellow flags in qualifying, leading to him being eliminated in Q1 before he was rear-ended by Sebastian Vettel in the race. The struggles continued at Imola, although Ocon, who did make Q3, and Alonso at least picked up points for 9th and 10th respectively in the incident-packed race. Hopes were high for the Alpine A521 at the start of the season, with the team's token spend focused on the rear of the car and allowing the upper rear wishbone to be raised by just over 70mm with a view to creating aerodynamic gains. It also appeared with a distinctively bulbous engine cover, necessitated partly by packaging the water cooler higher in the car to help tighten the side pod packaging. During testing in the first 4 races, Alpine has been one of the most active teams in trialling new parts as it works to regain ground. Perhaps as a result of its troubles, it ran its 2020 specification front wing in Bahrain testing and on the Grand Prix weekend before switching to its real 2020 version that had appeared on the launch images for the second race of the season at Imola. In common with its rivals, Alpine also experimented with multiple floor designs in testing, with the 3 different specifications trialled supplemented by a 4th on the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend. The front wing introduced to Imola moved a greater proportion of the main plane closer to the ground, which according to the race's technical expert Gary Anderson should produce more front load in low and medium speed corners, as well as making it less nervous on the brakes in corner entry. The outer section of the front wing remained raised, ensuring that there would not be too great a change in sensitivity when in roll mid-corner. In harness with the front wing change, Alpine also updated the cape. This featured a modified curvature with the addition of a turning vane along the step area to optimise the airflow. This is because even a small amount of airflow separation in this area can impact the entire undersurface of the cape. In both Portugal and Spain there were diffuser tweaks, with first a simplification of the outer diffuser strakes, then an adjustment to the inner strakes. The work on the floor and to the diffuser has given a gain in rear downforce and consistency, which is reflected in the improved performance. There are more tweaks planned for Monaco, with modifications to the steering system for Fernando Alonso. He says he is used to a different kind of assistance from the power steering, so hopes his efforts to recapture his best form will be helped by better feel. Alpine's improvements have allowed it to move up to 5th ahead of AlphaTauri in terms of average performance after the Spanish Grand Prix. This puts it in good shape for qualifying, although its race pace hasn't been quite as strong. Ocon's first stint at the Spanish Grand Prix showed this, as between the end of the safety car period and his first pit stop, relative to Daniel Ricciardo's McLaren, he was losing 0.386 seconds per lap. While Ricciardo was 2 places ahead, he was also controlling the pace of Sergio Perez, who separated them, with Ocon falling back from both. He was also losing ground to Charles Leclerc, who ran 3rd at a rate of just over a second a lap. Comparisons thereafter are distorted by both Alpine drivers attempting one-stop strategies, although Alonso abandoned his with a late pit stop after dropping out of the points. But Ocon held on to 9th place by just under 0.2 of a second from Pierre Gasly. Although the strategy was unusual, 9th place is consistent with the suggestion the Alpine is the 5th quickest car, and not quite at McLaren and Ferrari's level. But in qualifying at least, Ocon has showed it can aspire to do a little better. There's also the question of driver performance to consider. Ocon has had a strong start to the season after a difficult year alongside Daniel Ricciardo in 2020. But Alonso admits that he's still not completely at one with the car, saying after the Spanish Grand Prix that his current 100% level is below what Ocon can achieve. So there is still more to come from Alonso, while Ocon continues to go from strength to strength. If Alpine really is now F1's 5th best team, and it looks like it is, that is far better than things seemed early in the season. Being ahead of AlphaTauri, which was perhaps flattered by the fact the season started at 2 of its strongest circuits from 2020, Bahrain and Imola, means it can at least aspire to retaining 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. While McLaren and Ferrari have led the way so far, Alpine has at least joined the back of the group that they are in. The improvement raises confidence that the team can hope to take a big step forward next year for the new regulations, when the expectation is it will be able to fight for wins. While there's precious little carryover from 2021 to 22, the fact it has understood and fixed its problems shows the Enstone team is at least on the right track. Let us know in the comments how you think Alpine will do over the rest of the season, and if you found this look at its progress interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe.